Hello, Top Fan Rivalry followers. It is Bill and Jackson. It's Friday. Obviously, we drop our weekly review. It's time to get to it. Jackson, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. The Braves' second off day of the week, so I'm a little sad that they scheduled two off days in one week. Like, what is that?
Every team
Two
has one this year, and it drives you kind of nuts, right?
two days without baseball in a week? Like, what is this? A rainy New York weekend? Come on,
Well,
come on.
what is this? What are the Braves any good?
Oh, they're pretty good.
Are they?
I heard. I heard. Yeah.
Are they though? No, I'm teasing. There you go. Well, listen, I think the Dodgers drought, or AKA the 2 days off in a week, I think comes in July or August, and it's weird. It's one of the days is a Sunday.
What? Sunday
Yeah,
off?
they have a Sunday off this year.
Man, the schedule's just so weird this year. The off days on the second day of the season,
Yep.
all that stuff. They really made it real weird this season. But
Yeah, and we're talking about playing in Japan next year or Korea. Like I'm waiting for them to say, "All right, everybody's going to jump on the shuttle. We're going to launch out to the moon, and we're going to have a series on the moon. It's going to be exciting times."
well, yeah, that was one of my honorable mentions. What do you feel? How do you feel about the Dodgers and Padres playing in Korea?
We'll get to that when we get to the honorable mentions. How's that?
That
Because
sounds
I
good.
have some thoughts on it. All right.
Oh,
All right. You ready? Give
yeah.
me your first of the week. What's up? Talk to me.
Well, what we were talking about it before we started. How about the poor umpiring over the weekend
Oh, oh,
slash the beginning of this week?
giddy up.
First in the Mets Reds game, it was on Tuesday, I believe.
Yep.
Um, Ground ball up the middle, one hopper, and who was it? It was Will Myers interfered with Francisco Lindor by throwing his hands up into the path of his glove to knock the ball down. Everyone's safe. Both those runners end up scoring instead of it being a double play, and the Mets lose by 1 run. Buck Showalter was ejected for calling out all four umpires for, and I quote, missing it. You were all blind. Close quote.
Well, at least he's being honest.
At least he is being honest.
Yeah.
So I understand why the umpires ejected Showalter. It's a non-reviewable judgment call, which
Right.
you technically cannot argue, but it definitely had a big impact on the game. And then we'll talk. The other umpiring decision I thought that was egregious was the Yankees Rays series after Randy Arozarena hit a home run and kind of made a little motion towards the Yankees dugout in the first inning. He was hit on the first pitch in his next two at bats, and not until the second hit by pitch was a warning issued. But they issued one to Tampa Bay as well and ejected Tampa Bay's manager. So Bill, the real question is, when are we going to get rid of the protections for the umpires just throwing people out willy nilly? You know that's something I don't like. I like how MLB handles the protection of the umpires making judgment calls. That judgment calls are judgment calls. That's fine. It
Right.
happens, but I feel like some judgment calls need to be reviewable, such as interference, because interference is clearly defined. And then, the instances to warn both benches, it needs to be a little bit more clear. Those are just my thoughts. I understand why you warn the second team, so there's no retaliation, but it's absolutely ridiculous that you throw the manager out as well.
So I think there should be an umpire accountability program. And just like on a driving test, when you take your driving test, you end up having a scenario where in the driving test you miss a few and all of a sudden you fail, right? I think we ought to have that for umpires. If you score below a certain scorecard in a week, you get a week off. Because there's too many missed calls, there's too many blown calls, there's too many umpires throwing people out. Umpires are not there to insert themselves in the game. Their entire job is to say strike or ball or you're out or safe. That's it. That's your whole job. Forwards, right? If you have an accountability program, it's going to be a different scenario.
Yeah. Do you think, and my question for you is, do you think the umpires union will come up with some sort of accountability program to maybe prevent the automatic balls and strikes?
I don't know. I think the automatic balls and strikes is silly. Eh, What is good about the only thing that I think should be reviewable, the only thing, and this is Dr. My Bill here. You're hearing it first on Top Fan Rivalry Weekly Review. The only thing that I think should be reviewable is home runs. That's it. Out safe, judgment calls, right? And you don't see managers get ejected as much anymore. And come on, it was fun watching Bobby Cox come out of the dugout, right? I mean, that was great. You don't get that anymore,
Well,
right?
yeah, but I think the review system as it is right now is good, but it also has the flaw where it's like, how is an interference play not reviewable? Because, they play that. Was there an intent? But
So
there's a lot of that with a lot of different plays you could probably put out there. Was there intent to do this? Was there intent to do that? I think the umpire should just try to get the call right. That's what the review system should be for. It shouldn't be, to go, ha ha, I'm right, you're wrong. It should be to make sure that it's right.
I see what you're saying, but I'm going to raise you one. Okay. And so here's what I'm talking about. So yes, you need to look at the intent. Okay. And there's two plays where you can arguably say in the history of baseball, there's been a couple of plays that should have been reviewed that would have changed the outcome of October baseball. The first one, like I said about the home runs, was when the right fielder in the Bronx in the old Yankee Stadium was underneath the ball. He was an Oriole. He's underneath the ball, ready to catch the ball, and a fan reaches over and he points up like, "Hey, the fan, the fan, the fan," and they didn't do anything about it. Second one was when Reggie Jackson used his butt to deflect a ball that was being thrown between Davey Lopes and Steve Garvey in a World Series. So, yeah, okay. So now let's look at intent, right? Chase Utley slides hard into second base and breaks up a double play, breaks a guy's leg. They go into Queens for the next part of the series, and the first time he comes up, Noah Syndergaard throws behind him. Baseball, that's baseball mentality of, hey, listen, I see you, I hear you, I got you. Um, let's not do it again, type thing. But they throw him out. So intent, I like it.
Yeah, I will get into the whole Utley slide because I'm a big fan of breaking up the double play, but jumping through the bag into some guy's leg whose back turned to you is not breaking up a double play. But that's for a different podcast. That's for a different.
That's episode next week. That we'll cover that episode on the 53rd week of the year.
On February 30th of next year, we'll talk about it. I'm sure.
Absolutely, write it down. February 30th of next year, we're in. Okay, so my first one is I'm gonna kind of be a team guy today. So my first one is
2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row.
well, sort of, yeah. But so you're looking at the central divisions, and I've said both central divisions, all you got to do to win those divisions is win 85 to 87 games. And it's prophetic because the Pirates are 1-9 in their last 10 games. And how much ground did they lose on first place, Jackson, after going 0-7?
Almost no ground. Milwaukee lost 6 of 7 or 7 straight as well, or something like that.
Correct. So no ground. So my argument is, if you look at the Central and those divisions, both of those divisions, you're still going to be able to win them with 85 wins. Just saying. Jackson, thoughts?
I mean, baseball's weird. Like, you could win it with 85 wins, or teams could just go on an absolute tear, maybe get to 90, 95. But I think 85 would definitely make you competitive in that division.
I agree. But when you're looking at it from this perspective, Minnesota currently has a 3-game lead on Detroit. Detroit 17-19. In the National League, there's only half a game that separates the Pirates and Milwaukee. Milwaukee's 20-17. Pirates are 21-17. Past that, though, you've got the Cubs 18-19, Cincinnati 16-21, and the Cardinals 13-25. So, just saying.
Yeah, they're not very good.
What are your thoughts for your second one?
For my second one, I wanted to hop on over to the NL East and talk about what is the more significant injury out of these three injuries. Max Scherzer missing time again for the Mets, Max Fried missing a couple of months for the Braves, or Jose Alvarado going down for the Philadelphia Phillies. Which one do you think is the most important, Bill? I want to hear your thoughts.
Max Freeze, Braves.
You think so? I think the Braves are the best equipped to handle an injury just because of their depth. They have starters down at AAA, whereas
Yep. But that's not the question is basically who does it hurt the most, right?
Yeah.
And even though they have starters down in AAA, nobody's going to come up and be Max. I mean, you and I watched him at Petco, and he was very under control, and he was very dominating. Right?
That is true. As a Braves fan, I love me some Max Fried, but how this might open the door for Michael Soroka to become Michael Soroka again. Who knows?
Could be.
As a Braves fan, I'm far less worried about the Max Fried injury. If it was a bullpen arm like Raisel Iglesias again being out for that much time, I'd be a little bit more worried because the bullpen isn't as equipped to handle it. In the case of the Philadelphia Phillies, like they have at the major league level a couple other guys, but they don't really have a guy that can, come up and cover at a major league level.
Okay. Okay. I can see that. I can see that. But the Phillies are starting to play a little bit better baseball. Right? And so we'll see.
We'll see. Time will tell. But yeah, that's just kind of my number two is, three more big injuries the NL East to add to the list of carnage already spread across the division.
Exactly. All right, number 2. You ready?
Yeah.
Jumbotron Gate.
Jumbotron Gate.
Friday night. First ballot Hall of Famer Clayton Kershaw. Tell me that Clayton Kershaw is not a first ballot Hall of Famer first, Jackson.
Why he is. I'm not refuting.
Okay. First ballot Hall of Famer Clayton Kershaw goes to Petco, has an awful start, walks 5 guys. Clayton never walks 5 guys. There's been seasons that he's had where he's mid into May before he has 5 walks for the whole season. Okay. Has a terrible outing. The Dodgers have a terrible game. They walk 11. They lose to the Padres. Okay. It's kind of starting to become a rivalry a little bit, San Diego, LA type thing. They put a picture of Clayton Kershaw with a sad face and a blue tear, a meme of a blue tear coming down his face. Since then, the Dodgers took the other 2 games from the Padres, and the Padres lost the series to the Twins. Since then, the Dodgers have done nothing except for go 4-1. Okay. Now, your thoughts, Jackson. Have you seen the meme with Clayton Kershaw?
I have.
Okay. What are your thoughts about it?
I didn't even think it was that offensive. I'm just going to preface this. I saw a lot of outrage online. In rivalries, trash talking is a big thing. And, I think San Diego's trying to push the notion that they are rivals with LA. So I think they did something not like that, not out of, to disrespect Clayton Kershaw, because I'm sure Padres fans will tell you that Clayton Kershaw is a first ballot Hall of Famer as well. but rather to, kind of stoke, what's the word I'm looking for? To kind of, they want to poke the bear per se. They want to get the Dodgers agitated.
Of course.
And, if the Dodgers took the next 2 out of 3, that's great for the Dodgers for responding that way. But I don't think it's something to have a scandal over.
No. Oh no. No. But here's
I
the
don't think
thing.
it's Jumbotron Gate.
Jumbotron Gate is what I've named it. I'll trademark it later. I'll be here till Wednesday to hit the waitress. Okay.
Yeah.
So-
T-shirts on sale next week, right?
Yes, Jumbotron Gate. Here we go. Top fan rivalry. You heard it here first. So here's my thing. Okay. Rivalries are good. Stuff like that's fun and it's funny. I don't know if whoever's running the scoreboard or the Jumbotron got permission to do that. If they didn't, maybe they should get a little talking to. I don't know. Right. But that being said, why go after Clayton? Okay. Go after Mookie, go after Freddie, a very recognizable face. Don't go after a first ballot Hall of Famer. I will tell you this right now. If Freddie Freeman and or Mookie Betts retired today, they had career-ending injuries, God forbid, knock on wood. Neither one of them, in my opinion, is a first ballot Hall of Famer yet. Are they Hall of Famers? Possibly. But neither one of them have the numbers that are better than Don Mattingly, Steve Garvey. Like, you're still in that Hall of Very Good. Now,
Yeah.
if both of them, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, if both of them continue to play the way that they're playing and maybe have another 5 or 6 or 7 seasons the way that they're playing right now, then yes, they're both going to be Hall of Famers and probably first
I
ballot.
agree. Yeah.
If Clayton Kershaw hung him up today, if his last start was in Milwaukee last night,
Great start, by the way.
yeah, or 2 nights ago, I'm sorry, great start. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Tell me I'm wrong. Convince me I'm wrong.
Clayton Kershaw could give up 50 runs without recording it out. He's probably still a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So, and
Let's
probably
be real.
first ballot. Probably
Yeah.
a first ballot guy.
Probably still a first ballot Hall of Famer. Let's be real,
Right.
guys.
Right. And so my argument with Jumbotron Gate is pick somebody else. Don't go after a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I also don't mind it either. I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
I'm good.
I mean, props for Clayton Kershaw's response too. He said if I pitched better, they wouldn't have put something like that up on the screen.
Well,
if Kershaw went 7 scoreless and they got to the bullpen, I don't think Kershaw would have been up on the jump.
no. And I'll tell you this right now. My favorite comment was Julio Urias. There's a saying in Spanish: "He who laughs last laughs the best." I'm like, good for you, Julio. Don't know what that means, but all right, okay.
Yes, I'm familiar with said saying in Spanish. I've heard that one quite a bit.
There you go. There you go. All right. So what you got for number 3?
More of a shout out. Watching the Braves game last night, Kenley Jansen looked vintage last night, collecting his 400 save. He threw several 99-mile-an-hour cutters out of nowhere. So Kenley Jansen looks like he's back. I think he's only blown 1 save on the year for the Red Sox. His ERA is sub 2. He looked pretty good last night for a pretty good Red Sox team who I will throw in there has been streaking. They've won 8 of their last 9 or 8 of their last 10, I think. Masataka Yoshida's really starting to take off. The whole offense is just kind of churning out wins there in Boston. But I just wanted to shout out Kenley. Congrats on 400 saves.
Yes.
If a closer is going to get into the Hall of Fame, I think 400 saves is kind of like the sweet spot to kind of guarantee you in.
Yep. No, I agree. He looked good last night, and he's vintage. He's vintage Kenley, which I love. Right. I love that. I mean, we had a lot of fun years with him in LA, but I love the fact that, guys that still don't want to hang it up and are still playing well. I love that. That's great.
Yeah. And let me tell you, he led the league in saves last year, and his stuff was down last year. You could tell that it wasn't right. He was down a couple miles an hour in velocity, and it just kind of surprised me to see him come in the game and be throwing 99 again. I'm like, oh, geez, Kenley, the real Kenley Jansen's back.
Can the real Kenley Jansen please stand up?
Oh.
Please stand up.
He stood up. He wanted that 400 save. I'll tell you that.
So here's my number three. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Some people will say that it's not time to sound alarm bells in Queens or in the Bronx or in Boston or even in Pittsburgh, right? You know where you sound the alarm bells? And it's not in Oakland or Vegas or whatever it is. You know where you sound the alarm bells?
Where?
If you are a White Sox fan with that lineup that you have, you must be sounding the alarm bells right now. Case in point, they are actually, I haven't looked at their recently, but the last time I saw this, and this is, I haven't refreshed, but the last time I saw this, they are 13 and 25, 8 games out. And they went on a little bit of a streak there, but they were trying to chase Oakland and Oakland for their worst record in baseball, 1 point. And with the team that they have there, we shouldn't even be talking about the worst record in baseball. I predicted them to win the Central. What's going on?
I mean, to me, it just kind of looks like uninspired play, injuries,
Hmm.
and just all around it just looks bad. The team doesn't look like it wants to be on the baseball field. Uh, it was it Robert or Eloy Jimenez who didn't run out of play the other week on a ground ball to the pitcher.
Luis Robert.
Yeah, didn't run out of ground ball to the pitcher. It was thrown out by you know several steps when if he even gave a moderate effort would have been saved. I just think I hate to say it, but when you're stuck in a situation like that where you have a lot of solid aging players, you kind of got to blow it up because you're stuck in that in between of either you might be good, you might be bad, or more than likely you're going to be mediocre. And when you're stuck being mediocre, you don't get really much better because teams don't want to come sign with you because you're mediocre, and you don't get good draft, better draft prospects because you're mediocre. You kind of get stuck in the middle. I think the
Yep.
White Sox could make a few trades to maybe flip some of their younger talent to try to replenish that farm system because it's not a good farm system, and maybe be competitive in another couple of years, kind of retool as it's called now. But
Right.
as far as this season goes, I unless they go on some crazy run, I don't see it. I don't see it happening.
I think you're safe to say that. I think you're safe to say it. It's pretty insane, but I think it's safe to say. So, um, okay, so talk to me about your honorable mention now that we're at honorable mention
So
area.
I got two. The first one I want to mention is the passing of Vita Blue, uh,
Yep, I was gonna mention that. Yep, yep.
former MVP. Let me lay these numbers down on for you guys for his 1971 season. He was 21, by the way, for Oakland. He went 24 and 8 with a 1.82 ERA. He threw 8 shutouts, 312 innings, and he had a .95 WHIP. He won the Cy Young and the MVP.
Yep. Vita
So
Blue, baby. Vita Blue.
that was the highlight of a very solid career. Finished with a 3.27 ERA, 209 wins. 6-time All Star, won the World Series 3 times with the Oakland A's. So it was just kind of sad, to hear his passing. He probably was sad to hear his beloved A's are moving out of Oakland, truth be told. But great pitcher, and he's playing playing on the big game, the big ball diamond in heaven,
Yep.
with all the other guys. He's joined the big game.
Good game. All right. And so what's your second one?
The rumors are that the Dodgers and Padres will start next season in South Korea. What are your thoughts, Bill?
I don't think it's gonna happen. I think they'll move it someplace like Japan. And the reason being is because you have too many political ramifications. And what happens if the government says, you know what, we don't want to let you guys back out? What are they supposed to do then?
South Korea?
Yep.
Interesting.
Too many political things happening, too much danger. I think so. I'm gonna say I don't see it happening. I think they'll move it to Japan.
But if they were to play in South Korea, how electric do you think the stadium would be?
Huge. MLB's in town. Huge, huge. And so at the end of the day, though, I mean, I like all these different World Series type things, the Mexico series but keep in mind these guys are still guys and they're still players and they still have to go home to families. And I mean, that's a long trip. I mean, you're talking Korea. That's not just fly there one day, play 3 games and fly back. That's fly there one day, have a day off, play 3 games, fly back, like have another
Yeah,
2 days off. I mean, it's gonna wreak havoc on the schedule.
yeah. I kind of liked what they did a couple of years ago when the Mariners played the A's in Tokyo. They played them in Tokyo, I think, where they basically started spring training a week early and then had them show up, play that series a week before everyone else started. So by the time they were back and back into things, the season started again. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, if you can work it out that way, it'll be cool. But I just there's so many moving parts to that. I don't know. Do you like the idea? Do you not?
I do. I think, baseball's really big in South Korea. You know, baseball as a whole is growing as a global game. And I think it'd be really big. You saw the series in Mexico, the stadium was rocking the entire time.
Yeah, but you only had like 8 or 9,000 capacity there, and besides for that, you ended up having what 97 home runs hit or something like that day.
That's also true. I do know the stadiums in Korea are upwards of 20,000 though. They have several stadiums. So
Here we go. Another launching pad.
they play at sea level. It's not a launching pad.
Still doesn't. They'll still figure out a way to make it a launching pad, right?
I'm sure they will.
All right. So I think we've got it covered pretty well, Jackson. What do you think? What are we missing?
I don't think we missed anything. I mean, I guess if you want like an honorable mention, Wilson Contreras won't be catching much for the Cardinals over the next couple of weeks slash months. He'll be playing outfield and DHing while learning the pitching staff. So whatever that means.
That means that the Cardinals are not very good right now, and they need to figure out something.
If you're a Cardinals fan, what's your panic meter on the catcher that you signed for $85 million isn't playing catcher?
Well, what's your panic meter on the fact that not only is he not going to catch, but you didn't hire him for his bat, hired him for what he does behind the plate.
Yeah. Because he's just a slightly above average bat.
Yeah, he never hits 300. So, he's
Yeah,
no Will Smith. I'm going to say that right now.
he's no Sean Murphy.
He's no Fresh Prince of LA. So,
No, he's not.
all right, top fans. I think Jackson and I have done it pretty good today for you. I'm excited to see where this goes this next week. A lot of fun games this week. I believe the Braves have the Red Sox at one point coming up here pretty quick.
But they just finished with the Red Sox on
Oh, that's
Tuesday
right.
and Wednesday.
Okay.
They play Toronto starting today, Friday. They'll play Toronto this weekend, and then they play Texas, and then I believe they played the Dodgers, and then they play Philadelphia.
So they got some stuff lined up for them.
Yeah, and then I think Seattle's on the docket for this month, so it's gonna be wild. And then they end the month in Oakland, so
Which makes it a lot easier.
yeah,
A trip to that stadium where you're not going to win much at all. So, I mean, you're going to win. They're not going to beat you.
I think I think the Braves fans will double the athletic season attendance.
Yeah, they'll take it from
Probably.
800 to 1,600
I think there'll be a little bit more than that. There's a lot of Braves fans in California.
in Oakland.
They'll drive up. The stadium's empty. Tickets are free, basically.
Tickets are free. So, all right, top fans, we did great today. Top fan rivalry followers, we did great. We're going to do this again for you next week. Pay close attention as Jackson and I are spouting out some facts. By the way, if you like this show, by all means, refer your friends to it because next week we will have a new website and the price for the locker room will go up. I just got a text message about an hour ago about some price points. So you're going to want to be glad that you got in at $36 because that never goes away. So for you, but you know, others, it's not going to be $36. So keep an eye on that. All right, Jackson, I appreciate you. Top Fan Rivalry followers, we appreciate you. Make sure you're following Jackson at Top Fan Stats Guy. Make sure you're following Top Fan Rivalry and also the backup account build.topfanrivalry. And we will see you next week. Jackson, we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.
You too.